In the race to AI dominance, we have Nvidia, Google, Microsoft, Meta, and many other companies. Well, as many of us Tesla investors know, Tesla is also making a major push to AI. Not only with their efforts in making Dojo supercomputers and chips, but now they've announced that Elon Musk just approved a large AI data center investment. The race is absolutely on. And we've got Hans and Nelson joining us to explain to us kind of both the progress that Tesla is making, but also what's happening with Nvidia. Welcome, Hans.
Thanks for having me, Herbert.
Hans has his own YouTube channel. You should check him out at Hans C. Nelson. So this is breaking news because last night, Rohan Patel, one of the top executives at Tesla, he's in charge of business development. He tweeted this out, had a back and forth on Friday night with Elon Musk about a large AI data center investment he decided to approve, which he has been tracking closely for many months. Hard to imagine a CEO more involved in the most important details of their company than Elon. And then the two people that were in charge of actually, putting together this data center and the proposal for it, they also replied, saying, this was a lot of work. What's your thoughts on this announcement, Hans?
Yeah, so I am reading this to be Rohan commenting on the 100 exaflop supercomputer project that Tesla is planning to roll out. And obviously, Dojo is a big part of that. But I think it is interesting that he didn't say Dojo specifically in that tweet. And I think that does kind of lend a little bit of credence to the fact that it seems like it's going to be really divided between both the Tesla Dojo chips and probably continuing to utilize NVIDIA chips maybe a little bit more than they had hoped, at least at this stage in the game. Which is not to say that Dojo progress is not going to be completely incredible and transformative over the long run. But I think maybe it indicates that it's a little bit behind of where they hoped it would be optimistically at this point.
Yeah, no, this is good news for us, I think. So let's take a look at the progress of Tesla, and you can explain to us what's happening. But I think most people are aware of this. This is the Dojo chip, right? And then this is the table they put out that this is their plan. Yeah, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, and so it does say 100 exaflops, and it talks about the start of Dojo production. We are right around the time when it's expected that they should have reached, at least their goal was to reach the top 5 supercomputer clusters in the entire world. And but notice that it doesn't necessarily say anything about Dojo there. And so, the open question is how much of that roughly, I think that puts us at 33 exaflops is where we should be right now. So it's kind of unclear how much of that 33 exaflops, if they are on track to meet this 100 exaflop goal in the time frame, and kind of on the trajectory of the line that they have there. Um, we're not sure how many of those 33 exaflops are Dojo and how many are NVIDIA. We do know that Dojo is operational. We've had confirmation of that. And so we know at least some of those exaflops are Dojo. We also have confirmation that some of those are NVIDIA. But one of the things I would say that's really important to note is the fact that Tesla is moving ahead. Like they are completely on track to, build out all of the infrastructure that's necessary for them to perform extremely well in the realm of artificial intelligence and robotics, regardless of whether or not the ultimate ambitions of Dojo are achieved, or what the timeline of those ambitions are. That they're able to secure large. We at the very least know that they have been able to secure very large amounts of NVIDIA H100 supercomputers as well. And so, it shows the commitment that Elon has to doing that, regardless of what they have to do. Obviously, that ends up being a lot cheaper, and there's a lot more options that are opened up if it can be mostly Dojo out of that 100 exaflops. But that is one of the core pieces of the company that I've really been trying to track closely over the last year and then continuing into this year. I would love for this to be something that we actually hear more about, and I expect to in AI Day 3, hopefully the beginning of this year.
Okay, so that's an interesting comment you made that you think, this is good. It's reassuring me that you believe that the progress of robotaxi and bots may not necessarily require Dojo to hit the 100 exaflops that we're talking about. That's going to be a big deal. I mean, for them to have actually, for them to have actually invested in this large AI data center investment, though, that is fantastic that that's what they're doing. So I've been saying that they need to announce more of these. They need to invest more money. In fact, even possibly raising money. And most people are still saying, well, I don't know if they need to raise money, but this is a war. They need to get more.
They definitely need to invest heavily, regardless of whether or not they're raising money for it. But I think, Tesla has they have the cash pile on hand to make those investments and continue to make progress in the quality of the neural nets that they're not only training, but implementing in hardware.
All right, well, let's tell me more about NVIDIA. So I'm going to play a little video here.
100 GPU or graphics processing unit, NVIDIA's AI accelerator. But in reality, it's not just a chip that comes out of a plant.
When we talk about the H100 GPUs training AI models, we're likely talking about DGX H100, NVIDIA's AI supercomputer.
That's 8 H100 GPUs combined, capable of 32 quadrillion floating point operations per second.
Crazy computer performance.
It's a server design, and this is what it looks like under the lid. It starts with an H100 GPU seen here in the form of an SXM module. 8 individual SXMs are topped with heat sinks designed to dissipate heat generated from running big AI workloads. Those are connected on a single baseboard by interconnectors, and that assembly alone weighs 60 pounds. Add CPUs and other components, and a finished DGX system weighs almost 300 pounds.
But the scale in the real world is bigger still.
Some of the most powerful large language models are trained on the NVIDIA DGX SuperPod.
That is 32 DGX H100 systems combined into what's called a scalable unit. At its absolute most mind-boggling scale, DGX SuperPod can be up to 64 scalable units. That's more than 16,000 individual H100 GPUs. An AI company may use several SuperPods to train their LLM.
In the end, the DGX infrastructure sent out to the hyperscale cloud providers to put in their massive data centers.
Okay, so they just talked about massive data centers. We just explained that Elon approved a large, massive data center. What are you expecting?
Yeah, so I was looking up trying to find how many exaflops. I remember there was a comment that Jensen made at one of the announcements about I don't remember if it was a single cabinet that equaled an exaflop, but I guess the rough takeaway here is that the NVIDIA H100 architecture is roughly equivalent to the design goal of the Dojo supercomputer, that basically you get an exaflop of NVIDIA performance out of the H100 in roughly the same package size as you would get out of the Dojo supercomputer. Now, the important piece of information that is kind of left out from that I really actually need to do some more research into is just because they're the same size does not mean they have the same electrical efficiency. And that will be very important because at these large scales, the cost of training a large language model or any of these huge neural net systems really boils down to the electricity cost. So the cost of the hardware itself essentially collapses to zero over the lifetime of a thing. And most of those costs are all in power. And so I think that that's one of the dimensions that really needs to be looked at between the NVIDIA H100s and the Dojo supercomputer. But then, one of the things that you do get in an NVIDIA system is it's a lot more general system. It is also much better supported in hardware. There's a lot of different machine learning architectures that are you have way more options to experiment with all of the machine learning architectures that are out there if you're running on an NVIDIA system rather than something that is custom, that's going to have some restrictions and is not supported as well. It goes back to, for those kids that played PC games back in the day, and this is still the case today, that a lot more games are available on the Windows system than on the Mac system. And the same thing is going to be true in machine learning architectures, that NVIDIA is essentially the Windows OS of machine learning architectures that pretty much everything is built for. whereas something that's made custom in-house by Tesla is not going to have that wide general support unless Tesla comes up with some magical innovation that allows something that's built for an NVIDIA system to run on Dojo. And that is the aspiration, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they will be able to meet it. We certainly haven't seen that yet.
Well, it's a good thing then that they're doing both Dojo and NVIDIA, right? Because like you said, the one is optimized for video, real world AI. The other one is much more, for general, and they're going to need both. They're going to need both. Do you think that Tesla, are you one that believes that they are behind in purchasing enough NVIDIAs? Or do you think that maybe they're on track? Because when you take a look at the dollars spent in purchase, there's this chart that I've been showing folks where, Microsoft and Meta are like just almost like 10 times more NVIDIA chips than Tesla has secured.
Yeah, I think over their lifetime, but the thing is that H100s are so performant that they will come to dominate. Now, obviously, Meta and Microsoft are both laying out incredible sums of money this year. But one of the rumors I've heard, I haven't been able to confirm this, is that Elon Musk, and I don't know if it is in Tesla specifically or if it includes XAI, but that Elon was NVIDIA's largest customer last year. And he got some of the largest deployments of H100s in all of 2023. And depending on how much they end up investing in NVIDIA supercomputers in this 100 exaflop project that they're working on right now, they may continue to keep pace with those. And then the other thing that I would say is their primary customers themselves. And so while, yes, Meta and Microsoft are investing in large amounts of infrastructure, that infrastructure is divided up between, tons and tons and tons of customers all across a variety of industries. And so, Tesla doesn't have to have a cluster that's bigger than Microsoft in order to more than secure their own personal use cases. The reason that they would need something that is that large is if they plan to offer supercompute training cluster as a service, whether that is purely Dojo based or also NVIDIA based. The NVIDIA based stuff is obviously going to be much more attractive, I think, in the marketplace than Dojo to begin with, just because of the exact same point we made earlier about its compatibility with a lot of the current architectures. So I think the job postings for the people that are working on that supercompute as a service specifically do mention Dojo, but I think that while that may be the aspiration, that in reality, that practically it'll end up being a combination of both NVIDIA and Dojo, and maybe even primarily NVIDIA to start with, and maybe Dojo more and more over time. So that's definitely one of the other pieces that I'm really planning to keep a close eye out for in statements made by Tesla as a company, but even, I follow all of the AI team members at Tesla that I can, and, try and keep my finger on the pulse there as to anything that they say that really helps get an indication on which way this is moving.
Okay. Well, with the news yesterday that Rohan tweeted out saying that he has, he basically Tesla has approved and they're planning a very large data center for AI. I feel great. I know that Elon has a good relationship with Jensen. And just like you said, they might have, he makes a phone call, he'll get it. I feel very confident that if anybody can convince NVIDIA or other chip makers to, whatever the needs are of Tesla, they'll get it. And Elon is all on top of this. So I'm feeling good. I think that, what is it now, January of this year, they have this incredible goal. We'll watch this closely to see if they hit those goals. And then what you said a little bit earlier is that you're not necessarily believing that you need to hit those 100 exaflops by the end of this year for Robotaxi and Bot to continue to progress. That makes me feel better if that's true, and that's what we believe. Yeah.
One of the important points that Naveen Rao put forward, and he's the president and CEO, I believe, of Mosaic ML, is that really what Dojo is for Tesla is similar in function to Tesla getting into insurance, that Dojo is Elon's AI insurance, that he has very concrete ambitions about the amount of supercompute that he needs and the projects that they plan to execute with that compute. And Dojo is basically something that they have as a backup plan that if NVIDIA cannot deliver on those things, then they are not just completely out of luck. I have to give it to Jensen. He has been an incredible executor. Obviously, he has foreseen this AI dominated future and really didn't even let NVIDIA get overly focused on the Bitcoin mining craze. That while, NVIDIA GPUs were at the beginning of Bitcoin an incredibly important resource for Bitcoin mining, over time, those things went to ASICs. And Jensen didn't really go and chase that business because it wasn't necessarily where he believed the future of computing was going to go. He kept his eye on the ball, and he has foreseen this future for a number of years and architected NVIDIA in such a way as to completely take advantage of where we are right now. And, they are also one of their own largest customers. They use their hardware in order to improve the quality of the designs that they have moving forward, to continue to follow this Cambrian explosion, almost like an acceleration of Moore's law in the GPU space into the future. And so I think that it's incredible to see how well they have done on that journey. But I think that Dojo is a good bargaining chip for Elon in negotiations with Jensen, with NVIDIA, to acquire hardware, but also, in the event that something does happen to NVIDIA, that they do have a good backup plan. Because, regardless of whether NVIDIA can deliver, full self-driving needs to happen. And there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to go into that. The same thing is true for Optimus as well. For Elon to be able to have the control that he wants to over AI and robotics over the next 10, 15, 20 years, it's just not an option that they have a massive supercomputer at their disposal.
It's going to be a frenemy relationship with NVIDIA. NVIDIA just announced at the CES conference that they have Isaac, which is a robotics platform, a AI platform that they partner with at least 12 robots out there. Then they've got a whole genomics biology approach that they're promising to take over. And then they also have, besides robotics and this autonomous driving. They're partnering with a number of big name, large OEMs. I think Mercedes is one of them. And they're going to provide them with everything that needs to create AI for that. So we'll see what happens.
Which I think is good because, the market needs competition. And while we've seen, there's a big open question for a long time, who's going to be the competitor to Tesla in the automotive space? And I think we finally kind of have an answer there that it looks like it's going to be BYD. And then the same question kind of arises in a lot of the AI and robotics realm as well. Who's going to be a large competitive force that helps drive that innovation forward? And it looks like NVIDIA is stepping up to fill those shoes in a big way. And then we'll see. I think the other major force is going to be the open source movement as well.
Nice. Thank you so much, Hans. Appreciate this. I love talking bots and AI with you. You've become quite the expert in this space. Follow Hans on his YouTube channel, Hans C. Nelson. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.